The night was darker than usual, with rain pouring endlessly over the quiet highway. The air felt heavy, and the sound of thunder echoed through the lonely stretch of road. A sleek black car stood wrecked by the side, its headlights flickering weakly. Inside, a man in a blood-stained suit slumped against the steering wheel, his breathing shallow. His phone lay shattered on the floor, and with trembling hands, he tried to push the door open, but failed. Pain shot through his leg, forcing him to let out a broken cry. This man was Li Zhen, a young and powerful CEO known for his cold heart and unmatched success in business. People feared him, respected him, but nobody truly knew him. Tonight his power meant nothing. Alone and helpless, he was trapped in his car, the rainwater slowly seeping inside. His calls for help went unanswered as cars sped past, their drivers not daring to stop in the storm. His vision blurred, and he whispered hoarsely, "Help, please." But the wind swallowed his voice. Just when his hope was fading, the sound of a small engine approached, soft at first, then louder. A faint light pierced through the sheets of rain. It wasn't a car, but an old tricycle, wobbling as it made its way closer. Sitting on it was a young village girl, wearing a bright yellow raincoat, her face partly hidden under the hood. She stopped as soon as her eyes caught the wrecked car. Her name was Mai Lin, a simple girl from a nearby village who earned her living delivering vegetables. She wasn't rich or powerful, but she had a kind heart. Mai Lin hesitated. Should she stop? Her grandmother always told her not to meddle in strangers' affairs, especially at night. But something about the scene tugged at her heart. She saw the man's hand weakly banging against the window, his face pale as paper. Without another thought, she jumped off her trike and ran toward the car, splashing through puddles. "Sir, are you okay?" she shouted, knocking on the window. Li Zhen struggled to lift his head. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Panic rushed through her as she tried the door, but it was jammed. "Don't worry, I'll get you out," she said. With determination, even though her own hands were shaking, she ran back to her trike, grabbed a heavy wrench from the basket, and hurried back. With all her strength, she tried prying the door open. Rain soaked her hair, her arms ached, but she didn't stop. Finally, the door gave way with a loud creak. The CEO fell against her, almost knocking her over. She gasped at the sight of his injured leg and bloodied forehead. "You're badly hurt. I need to take you to the clinic." "No, hospital," he muttered weakly, gripping her sleeve. His voice was hoarse but firm. "There's no hospital nearby, but my home isn't far. You can't stay here. You'll freeze," Mai Lin said, trying to sound braver than she felt. She dragged him toward her trike, struggling under his weight. He was tall and heavy, and she was just a small village girl. But somehow, she managed to get him seated on the back of the trike. The rain fell harder, blurring her vision as she pedaled with all her might through the muddy road. Li Zhen's head rested weakly against her shoulder. Through his pain and dizziness, he could smell the faint scent of herbs from her clothes. He wasn't used to being touched or helped by anyone, but for the first time in years, he felt safe. "Stay awake. We're almost there," she called. Over her shoulder, her voice trembling, but his eyelids grew heavy. Darkness tugged at him, and he whispered her name faintly, though he didn't even know how he had learned it. Mai Lin. She froze for a moment. How did he know her name? She hadn't told him. Before she could ask, she felt his grip loosen and his body slump. "Hey, don't close your eyes," she cried, panic rising in her chest. "You hear me? You can't die here." Her tiny hands tightened on the handlebars as tears mixed with the rain on her face. She didn't know who this man was, but she refused to let him slip away. As they reached the outskirts of her village, a faint light glimmered in the distance, her small home. But just as relief filled her heart, the trike suddenly jerked to a stop. The front wheel had gotten stuck in the mud. Mai Lin looked down and gasped in horror. The path ahead was completely flooded, and there was no way she could pedal through. She turned to the man behind her. His face had grown paler, and his breaths were faint. No, please hold on," she begged, her voice cracking. She jumped off the trike and tried to pull it forward with her hands, the cold water soaking her up to the knees. Her arms burned from the effort, but the trike wouldn't budge. "Somebody help," she screamed into the darkness. "Please." But the village was quiet. No one came. She looked down at the man again, her heart pounding. "I don't even know your name," she whispered, "but I won't let you die here." Taking a deep breath, she pushed harder, her feet slipping in the mud. Her fingers were raw, her body numb from the cold, but she refused to stop. Then in the distance, she thought she saw a lantern's glow moving toward her. Was it her imagination? Or had someone finally heard her cries? But before she could find out, the man's hand weakly gripped hers again. His eyes fluttered open for a moment, and he whispered words that made her freeze on the spot. You saved me, but now, they'll come for you? My Lin stared at him, confused and scared. What do you mean? Who's coming? But he didn't answer. His head dropped again as the sound of a motorbike roared faintly in the distance. My Lin turned her head sharply. Someone was coming fast. But was it a friend? Or an enemy? Her heart raced as she realized this might not be an ordinary accident. And without warning, her quiet village life was about to change forever. My Lin's hands trembled as she stared down the flooded path, the dim lantern light bobbing closer. Her soaked clothes clung to her skin, her legs numb from the cold water. But she stood firmly in front of the unconscious man, ready to protect him even if she didn't fully understand what danger was coming. The motorbike came to a sudden stop just beyond the edge of the water. A tall man in a black raincoat stepped off, his helmet reflecting the flickering lantern light. He didn't speak. He simply stood there for a long moment, his face hidden by the shadows. My Lin's heart thudded louder than the rain. Who are you? She called out, trying to sound brave. The man removed his helmet slowly. His sharp features and narrow eyes sent a chill down her spine. Is that Li Zhen? He asked coldly, nodding toward the trike. She didn't answer, her instincts telling her to lie. He's hurt. He needs help, she said instead. The man's eyes narrowed. So you don't know who he is? Mai Lin took a half step back, shielding the injured CEO behind her. I don't care who he is. He was dying on the road and no one helped him. I did what was right. The stranger chuckled darkly. You think kindness works in this world? He pulled out a phone, snapped a photo of the scene, and made a call. Mai Lin couldn't hear the exact words, but the way he glanced at her and then at Li Zhen made her stomach twist. She knew then this wasn't just about a car accident. Something much bigger was going on. The man ended the call and looked at her again. You shouldn't have gotten involved, but maybe it's already too late. Without another word, he turned and walked back to his bike. The engine roared to life, and he disappeared into the night as quickly as he had come. Mai Lin collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed. Her eyes fell on Li Zhen, still unconscious, and she whispered, Who are you really? What have you gotten me into? By the time she managed to drag him the rest of the way to her home, the sky had begun to lighten. Her tiny house was nothing more than a one-room cottage, with a small bed, a stove, and shelves filled with herbs and dried vegetables. She carefully laid him down and began cleaning his wounds the way her grandmother had taught her daughter. As she worked, she noticed something strange. A faint tattoo behind his ear, a symbol she didn't recognize. His suit jacket, though torn, had an embroidered emblem inside the lining. These weren't things ordinary people wore. When he finally woke up, his eyes fluttered open slowly. He stared at the ceiling, then turned his head toward her. You're safe, she said softly. I brought you to my home. You passed out. He tried to sit up, winced, and fell back. You shouldn't have helped me. I wasn't going to leave you to die. You don't understand, he said. They're not going to stop. They'll come for you too. Who? That man on the bike? He looked her dead in the eyes. He works for my uncle, my family. They want me gone. Mai Lin was speechless. She thought this man was just another wealthy businessman. Now she realized she had saved someone. Caught in a power struggle far beyond her world. Li Zhen took a deep breath, pain flashing in his eyes. I was betrayed. My car was tampered with. I was supposed to die last night. Why would your own family do that? He looked away. Because I refused to sign over the company. My uncle wants full control. He's been building power behind my back for years. Last night was just the final move. Mai Lin's mind spun. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. And now, because she'd helped him, she might be in danger too. But what could she do? She was just a village girl. No connections, no money, nothing but her tricycle and a heart that refused to ignore someone in need. Over the next few days, Mai Lin kept him hidden in her home, treating his injuries and feeding him simple meals. They talked more slowly, cautiously. She learned that behind his cold CEO mask, Li Zhen was a man who had grown up alone, orphaned. At a young age, raised by relatives who only saw him as a tool, he learned about her too, how she dropped out of school to care for her ailing grandmother, how she worked every day to keep their tiny home running, how she never asked for anything. In return, their worlds couldn't be more different, yet something began to grow between them. A silent understanding, a warmth, but peace didn't last. One morning, while Mai Lin was out gathering herbs, she noticed a black SUV parked near the old temple road. It hadn't been there before. Her heart sank. When she returned home, Li Zhen was already standing at the window, his face pale. "They've found us," he said. "What do we do?" Mai Lin asked, panic rising again. "I have to leave," he said. "I can't stay here and risk your life." "But you're not fully healed." He smiled faintly. "You've already done more for me than anyone else in my life. I won't let them hurt you because of me." Just then, a rock shattered the window. Mai Lin screamed and ducked, while Li Zhen pulled her down to the floor. Voices outside called his name. "Come out." "Li Zhen, we know you're in there. Don't make this harder." Mai Lin looked at him, terrified. "You can't fight them alone." He reached for the small pouch he always kept close, pulled out a tiny device, and whispered, "Maybe I don't have to." "What is that?" He pressed a button. "It's a tracker. Sends a signal to the only person I still trust, my assistant. If he got away, he'll come for me." The voices outside grew louder. Footsteps approached the door. Mai Lin clutched his hand. "Whatever happens, I'm not letting them take you." Li Zhen looked at her with something deeper than gratitude, something that hadn't existed in his life until now. But before either of them could speak, the door handle rattled violently. Then bang. The door burst open, and the real fight began. The door flew open with a deafening crash, and 3 men in black suits stormed in, their eyes cold and unfeeling. Mai Lin instinctively stepped in front of Li Zhen, her small frame trembling, but her determination stronger than ever. "Move aside, girl," one of them barked. "This doesn't concern you." "It does," she shouted back, her voice shaking but firm. "You can't take him. He's injured. You'll have to go through me first." The man smirked cruelly. "Do you really think you can stop us?" But before he could take another step, a sharp voice cut through the tension. "I wouldn't take another step if I were you." Everyone turned. At the entrance stood a tall man in a gray coat, water dripping from his hair, his sharp gaze fixed on the intruders. It was Jiang Wei, Li Zhen's most trusted assistant. Behind him, 2 uniformed police officers appeared, weapons drawn and faces stern. "You're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy," one officer declared, stepping forward. "We have evidence and witness statements." "It's over." The 3 men froze, their confidence faltering. "This isn't what you think," one of them tried to protest, but Jiang Wei pulled out a small device and held it up. "This tracker recorded everything since the accident. Every word your boss said on the phone, every order he gave to eliminate Li Zhen. You've lost." Realizing there was no escape, the men dropped their weapons and raised their hands. The officers quickly moved in to cuff them, dragging them out of the small house as Mai Lin let out the breath she'd been holding. Li Zhen sagged against the wall, his face pale but his eyes steady. "You made it," he said to Jiang Wei, his voice low but filled with relief. "I would never leave you, sir," Jiang Wei replied. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. I'll always protect you." Mai Lin turned to Li Zhen, her heart pounding. "It's over now, right?" He looked at her, his expression softening in a way she hadn't seen before. "Yes, thanks to you." The next few hours passed in a blur. The police escorted the criminals away, and a medical team arrived to take Li Zhen to a proper hospital. Mai Lin stood outside her little home, watching as they carefully lifted him onto a stretcher. As they were about to leave, Li Zhen reached out his hand toward her. "Come with me," he said softly. "I owe you my life. I don't want to leave you behind." Mai Lin hesitated. Her whole life had been in the village, her grandmother's memories, her small garden, the quiet she had grown used to. But looking into Li Zhen's eyes, she felt something she couldn't explain. It wasn't just gratitude. It was the beginning of something deeper. I don't belong in your world," she said quietly. "You belong wherever your heart leads you," he replied. "And my heart wants you by my side." Tears welled in Mai Lin's eyes, but she smiled and placed her hand in his. "Then I'll come." Weeks later, in the bustling city, Li Zhen stood at the window of his high-rise office, staring out at the skyline. Behind him, Mai Lin arranged fresh flowers in a vase, humming softly. The cold, lonely CEO who once commanded fear now seemed warmer, lighter. He turned to her and said with a rare, genuine smile, I used to think no one cared about me, that my life was just about power and success. But you taught me that kindness still exists. You saved me not just my life, but my heart too. Mylin walked over and took his hand. And you showed me that even an ordinary village girl can make a difference in someone's world. Their fingers intertwined. As they looked out at the city together, a quiet promise passing between them. In the end, it wasn't wealth, power, or status that mattered. It was the courage to care, even when no one else would. And sometimes love begins in the most unexpected places, with a broken man, a tricycle, and a girl who refused to look away. And so, their story became one of healing, redemption, and a love that neither of them had been searching for but both of them desperately needed. The rain had long stopped, but the memory of that stormy night would stay with them forever.